I was just telling you. I was like, yeah, I was like, we wrapped
Of the choice of a lady.
a week ago.
We wrapped on
Just wrapped.
Friday and we went straight into this.
I was like, it's only been a week.
It's like, all right,
We wrapped like 1,000 years
you're
ago.
done. You get a breather. Nope, press time. You're going out on tour.
You're on the whole junket now.
Yeah.
It has Warcraft.
I know. We're gonna.
Oh man.
You're jumping the gun. There's so much to get to. We should start it now
No,
if you feel like doing it.
it.
You don't have to wear the headphones if you don't like. If
I
you
like headphones.
makes you feel better, you
The
can.
other 40. So they're doing
Hello,
studio
hello.
one at a time.
Nothing?
See what I
No,
say
it's fine, I
all the
can-
time.
I can
Those
do that.
builders have done fucking nothing since I've been in here.
Yeah.
That's why they're taking so long to build.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dominic Cooper's here.
Yeah.
How are you doing, sir?
Keep that. You're keeping that in.
Yeah, we'll keep that in. No big
I
deal.
didn't mean that. They've done
Of
a lot.
course,
They
the
haven't
star of something that a lot of fans, us included, thought would never be made. Preacher is now
Oh, yeah.
coming to AMC.
I
We're
can't
very
hear
excited.
Anything. I can't hear anything. I don't feel like I'm on radio.
This
because
board,
I'm just
you know
talking.
why? Because this isn't our normal studio, and this one sucks.
I need to kind of. I need to hear reverb and crackly stuff.
No headphone levels. You know what? You want mine?
It could be.
I don't
as
need
though-
it. You can have
No,
mine.
no, no, don't.
Go ahead.
No, no.
You sure?
Yeah.
It looks foolish if you're just wearing headphones that don't work and don't do
I feel
anything.
like we have to if we're doing radio.
You
We
don't
should wear
have to.
headphones and hear something, right?
Look,
Nothing.
I'm on a morning show that airs to 2 countries and millions of people, and we eat breakfast and barely listen to what the people are saying on the phone. So it's okay. You don't need the headphones.
No. All right.
There you go.
Headphones are out. Guys, all changed. So, headphones are pointless now.
I pretty
That one
much.
doesn't even have a wire. Oh, yeah, it does.
It has a wire in there. Some of them are Bluetooth. These are regulars. Preacher, we're all excited about this. We never thought it would get made. Got a chance to talk to Seth Rogen the other day.
Did he come in?
He came in. It was a weird crossover. He was in, and Weird Al was in the studio at the same time. And got to talk to him a little bit about Preacher, how excited he's been pushing for this project for over 10 years. Sort of like Ryan Reynolds when he was pushing for Deadpool for 11 years.
I didn't know that, was he? Love that.
11 years, and they finally got it made. And it's great to hear that kind of story, because then you have a little bit more faith in what's going on in Hollywood, that these people have these passion projects, and it just takes some time and finally getting somebody to listen. These things are going to happen.
Yeah.
And now
Yeah.
Preacher is here.
Yeah.
Were you a fan of the graphic novel?
I have to admit that I wasn't, but I am a huge fan of it now. But
Right.
so I saw it. I saw it as a piece of. Well, I saw it as a script, as a I suppose 45, 50-minute episode, and I thought it was the best thing I'd read in a long time. So then I met Seth and Evan and the other producers and chatted with them. I mean, if you don't know the comics and someone's trying to describe the comics to you, it sounds beyond absurd. I mean, it just sounds like madness. It sounds like they've actually lost their mind, these people. But they chatted with me for 2 hours about characters that look like someone's rear end, about men that are in love with sleeping with large chunks of meat, about episodes that could be set in space, in heaven. It was so endless, the possibilities of what this could be, and the fact that Seth, as you said, that they'd been trying to make it for such a long time. And it was from a place of such passion. And then I looked into the comics and started reading them, and I thought that they were I couldn't believe I'd missed out on them, and I've read them very quickly because they're all in large volumes now. So, and I realised, we've got such a wealth. If people take to this show, which I think they will, for the future, we have such a wealth of information and fun characters and descriptive pieces. It could go anywhere, and they've been very clever in that they've set this show as a kind of prequel, I suppose, to the comic. So it really establishes who these people are. If you were to just enter the comic as a TV show, it would make no sense. It's just, it goes at a million miles an hour.
Yeah, it was interesting because we got to see the first 4 episodes, and within the pilot, it does take place before actually where the comic starts.
Well, all of the episodes, really. We end right at the beginning where they start and they go on their journey. But I think it's great that you understand the preacher, the guy I'm playing. You see him making an attempt at saving this town, at least. You understand what his desire is to help himself and all these people around him, and all the relationships he has within that town. And then the character of Cassidy and Tulip, you understand who they are before we go off and follow them around on an epic journey with them.
I think it's a great place to start for people who don't know anything about the comic, who are just going to come in and watch the show because of how cool the trailers have been and the way AMC's been pushing and presenting this. And even for the comic book fans who do know everything about it, you're starting at a point before their knowledge of the story, so they can't jump in and complain right off the bat, other than we haven't gotten to where the comic starts yet. Everybody's on the same page with a new ride with Preacher on AMC here.
I haven't thought about that, but it's very true. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only thing, like, after watching the first 4 episodes, I was just like, the only thing I could honestly see people complaining about is that it doesn't start exactly where the comic starts, because everything else is 100% the same. Like, the characters are spot on.
Yeah.
The comedy is perfect. The gore is hilarious and stomach turning at the same time. Like, it's so good.
I know. They've just managed to get the taste of it right. I think that's always the danger with stuff like this. It's sort of finding how tonally you interpret a comic like that. And it means so much to the people that do love it and have grown up with it and reading it. That's very hard to get right. And actually those guys were the perfect people to do it, as many people have attempted in the past. But it's very funny. It's ludicrous at times. It's very serious. It brings up great conversations. It asks questions of faith, but ultimately there's a bunch of chaotic madness at the center of it, but there's also a really good heartfelt story with these 3 characters in the center of it.
Before we get into the gore and some of the details of this, can we give him his sandwich here?
Yeah.
You can eat it while we're
It's
doing
fine.
this. Go
I
right
can't.
ahead.
I
No,
can't eat a
please
sandwich while I'm
take it and have it. We are not a professional operation here.
No, I'm not a professional operation.
I left my sandwich in the office. Had I
Why
known,
didn't
I
you
would have
go
brought
get it?
mine too,
But
and
we
we
don't
would have
get
eaten
it.
together. But this poor gentleman's been starving. We were waiting for his food, and here it is.
We don't have to do this.
No, please help yourself.
My God, look, this
Relax.
is what I miss about New York. Look,
Take
you can
a
get
big
something like
bite.
this. Okay.
What did you get?
Big
I
ass
don't know what
bacon,
that
egg, and
is.
cheese
It
sandwich.
just looks like it's going to save me, though.
The preacher's being saved by an egg sandwich.
That's all it took. That whole show was a waste.
That was it. It was just Genesis getting inside him again.
Oh, I've missed that. You
How
can't
good is
get
that?
anywhere in the world.
Yeah, nobody understands that outside of this area, that bacon, egg, and cheese is on a roll, a Kaiser roll, is really what breakfast is all
It's
about.
the jam.
You don't
Yeah.
need anything other than that.
It's so good.
So, you've had so many great roles. I mean, you were just coming off younger Howard Stark in the Marvel universe, both doing the first Captain America movie and Agent Carter.
Yeah.
So you were, fully entrenched as young Howard Stark, and then to get another iconic comic book hero with the Preacher here. When did you find out that you got the role, or did somebody have you in mind? Did you have to go audition? What was the process?
I don't know whether they had me in mind. I stole the script from someone because I thought I heard that it was one of the great scripts that was around, and so I nabbed it off someone. I read it. I went, this is the best thing that I've read in a lot. Seriously, and I know people say that. It was just great. It had all those, every element of the films that I loved growing up, and I thought, wow, imagine being part of this, and then, to look at those comics. So then I requested or desperately pleaded to get in the room with the guys who were creating it, which my agent managed to do very quickly. And it turned out, I think they've been looking for a long time. I think they've been looking for all these characters and without the characters, without them getting that right, it's not, it's hard to make the show. They found Cassidy. Cassidy is impossible to find.
Yeah.
Joe Gilgan walked in. They found Cassidy. I mean, he is Cassidy. I'd love for you guys to meet him. I mean, he's just, you meet him and you chat with him. He's that character.
Cassidy plays your vampire friend.
Yeah.
Irish vampire. Drinking whiskey and blood.
Yeah, I mean, the first time I saw Cassidy, I was like, yep, that's Cassidy. Like, that is him. Even the fact that for a couple of seconds, I couldn't understand him. Like, and that's the same way it is in the comic, too. When you read it, it's like sometimes you read, you're like, what the hell word is that? That's not a word. You have to, like, look it up, and you're like, oh, it's a word from, like, 1910 because we didn't go into his backstory yet. It's like weird stuff like that. But Cassidy, spot on. Like, so good.
So I think, always with the casting process, and you don't know at what point you've entered it, but you know that the dialogue's going well and you're having a really good conversation and that you're all kind of coming from the same place with what it needs to be and who this person needs to be. And it was just, it's a big jump for me to, the guy's from Texas, it's from a small town in Texas, and it's like very different from where I grew up, but my idea of who he was, and I don't look a million miles from the guy in the comic, demonic, kind of deranged nutter. So I think that worked in my favour. But it's a process. The thing about what was great about creating this was that I think everyone's working out what it is as we go. We're deciding who they are, what their backstory is, because there's only so much the comic tells us, and we're before the comic starts. So it was a really interesting development from everyone. We were all kind of pitching ideas, and I think what we've managed to come up with is something I'm very proud of and very excited for people to see. And that's a rarity, for any work. Normally there's something that holds you back from wanting people to see it. But I think the fans of that comic will be very pleased, and I think people who have no idea what it is will also be taken for a very interesting ride.
I watched all 4 episodes.
So you've seen more than me. I'm really interested to know how.
Well,
it goes.
is it true you just finished, right? Is that what you guys were talking about? Right?
4 days ago, and
then you're on the press trail, right for the launch.
Yeah.
That's really cutting it close from the debut to being finished with the whole series.
I couldn't believe it. I can't believe how they make this.
When did you start filming everything?
February we started, and then they make an episode in 7 days.
Wow!
And then they cross over on the 8th. It's just like it's unbelievable. People were working extremely hard. People were doing nutty sort of 18, 19 hour days sometimes. I was so impressed by the amount of work that goes into it and the quality of it for such a short space of time. I'm still kind of can't get over it. And
that's a different process for filming a TV show that way as compared to how you were doing it with Agent Carter and Marvel.
Well, they shoot very quickly. With playing Howard Stark in the film, it's shot a very different way. For example, the fight sequence at the end of Preacher, where I'm in the bar and I finally, like some crazed drug addict, get my hit of violence, which I've been sort of suppressing. That fight sequence is a difficult, hard, complicated piece of choreography.
Yes, awesome indeed.
that would take, I'd say you'd put 4 or 5 days aside for that in the film.
Yeah.
And we did it in a day. So, I mean, there's a big difference to it. You have to do it. You get what you can. And sometimes I think in the creative process, it makes for great work, rather than going back over ideas or doing something again and again and again in the hope to get it perfect. You go, that's it. That's all the time we've got. That has to work. If it doesn't work, we'll work out a way of making it work. So
has Garth Ennis chimed in at all? Like, did he have any input into like the actual creation of the show, or did he just like give it his blessing and like say, you guys can just go ahead and make this? Like, what role did he have?
I was listening to him talk yesterday with Seth. Actually, him and Seth were chatting about that. And I think they had quite a difficult, nothing difficult about it, but neither wanted to say what both men were thinking, which was, it needs to be quite different from the comic. This needs to be altered. And I think he totally understood that. The comic can't be translated directly as a TV. They're 2 different entities. And I think Garth, for a start, he loves it. And it's very exciting to see a man who had created this madness in his head that many years ago, see it all come to life. He had input when it was necessary, when we needed things answered, but he didn't interfere. He's a great guy. He's a very calm, thought-provoking person. He's not, and he wouldn't ever interfere. And I think, but he'd say something if he didn't like it. He'd go, that's definitely not the tone or the people that I had in my mind all those years ago. But he's ecstatic about it, and he's waited for this a long time. He's been told time and time again, we are making your comic into a film or a TV show, and it's never happened. It finally has happened, and I think he's very excited about it.
Yeah,
there's some great scenes. I don't want to jump ahead because the show only premieres this Sunday. Nobody's seen it yet, but there's some. We were talking about the bar scene being a great fight scene. There's another great scene, I won't get into too much detail, but in the church involving a chainsaw that I told Seth, I said, so far out of everything I've seen, I think that is my favorite part. And he just goes, mine too. And he goes, that was the best thing to shoot. You would think, at least for TV, that, all right, they're swinging the chainsaw. Maybe the chainsaw would get stuck in a pew, and then there would be a fighting, and the chainsaw really wouldn't be too relevant in the fight itself. but everything is around that, like grabbing the blades and swinging and cutting people and everything. It's like I was amazed that you got to do that for television, but two, when you all are you're passed out and everyone else is fighting while it's going on there. It's just amazing how that they said, you know what, let's give it a shot and see how far we can go with this, and if we have to tone it down because it doesn't look believable as far as the situation, we'll do that. But everything, there's no line right now. Everything you guys are doing is great and it works out. There's a bathtub scene of you breaking into somebody's house and involving a bathtub that I was like, oh my God, that scene was amazing too. And that was sort of an awakening point for your character. They're really just saying, like, give it all you can and go as far as you possibly can. Yeah. And we'll see if this works.
Maybe that is the trick. Maybe that's what they've got so right. And I haven't thought about it like that, but maybe you have to. Maybe you have to go to extremes and then go, because the comic is extreme. You can't believe what you're reading.
Right.
You're utterly shocked at every page turn. So maybe that's what they've managed to accomplish by doing this. They said, let's go full out on this.
Yeah,
and then we can kind of go, this is just too much. This is too abstract or far-fetched, and we need to turn it down. But you can't go, once it's shot, once it's in the can, you can't then make it more. So that, for the example you give of the chainsaw fight, it went on for hours. There's a lot more footage of that.
Oh, I hope there's extra scenes when they put the box set out.
That fight went on and on and on in a great way.
And it was shot mostly in the dark, too, which is difficult for fight sequence as well, because usually if there's a fight going on, there's always a bright light somewhere because there's a street light next to a bar or on the side of the road or something, so you're getting the light. But you're inside the church, and there's stained glass windows, so there's no clear light coming through, and they managed to show you everything and make it look very realistic.
Yeah, they have. Again, all credit to the kind of fight department and the guys choreographing that. And there are other things when you do those fight sequences. They're never what you've predicted, and they're never the thing you've learned. They always have to change. You suddenly realise you're in the dark in a church between a bunch of pews, and so you have to adapt it to what it is.
Feel it out, boys. Yeah. Action.
Yeah. Exactly. But I mean, who came up with that? The chainsaw fight in the church. I mean,
I'm trying to remember. Is that in that? Oh no, it's not in the comic because it's all before.
I don't think there's a chainsaw fight.
No, I don't remember any chainsaw stuff like that. There's a lot of other things.
One other little thing. It's just such a little detail. You address in one episode when you're giving a sermon about asking whoever is messing with the church's sign out front to please stop. But every cutaway scene, that there's a different message on there. I know the Simpsons did it for their church stuff all the time, but I think it's all an homage to, I think, Faulty Towers, isn't it?
The sign,
because the sign in front of the hotel, every time they did it, would say like farty towels or filthy owls or something. Like they kept switching.
Tarts,
they kept switching it.
Did it always change? It's
every
one of my
time.
favorite shows.
Every
I don't
episode.
think I know that. I thought it always said. Isn't the sign of one on the letters fall or something?
Well, the initial, like when they have the theme music says faulty and the F is kind of hanging.
Yes,
but every time they did the exterior scene, somebody was switching the letters around.
I've never realised that. I've never thought, and I love that show. And do you know how I was talking about that show last night? Do you know how few were made of that show?
I think it was only 8 episodes.
I think it is something so small, and yet every time you see it, and you see it a lot, you feel like
they're long episodes, but there was only so few of them made.
And I think the guys really liked that. Well, they certainly liked John Cleese and the Life of Brian and all those the
Monty Python
guys. And so there's lots of stuff I think that is because that comes from their childhood. That's their what they grew up with. So.
We'll see if you can find that out, because I was wondering if that was an homage to
I imagine
Towers.
It is. I imagine it is.
One of the best I don't care if this is a spoiler, but one of the best signs was it said salvation with free salvation with purchase.
Yeah. That's a good one.
And then everyone's all downtrodden in the church, and you're trying to figure out how to enliven these people up. I'm like, the transitions and just the little things on the side are so great in this show.
Yeah.
What has been your favorite thing to shoot so far, since you're obviously done?
I think the whole thing has been it's such a mashup of different genres, and the speed with which you film it. Like I just said, you're going from doing full out comedy, like then into running into another set, doing this really serious scene, someone discussing God and your faith and everything else, then you're running off again and having a chainsaw fight in the next room. So it's been as crazed as the show is itself, but in a great way. But I suppose I've done a lot of action stuff recently, and although I really enjoy that, it's been the dialogue, which is so well written, and it's sitting down opposite someone, sitting in one of the booths of the Flavor Station or whichever diner we're in, and having a proper chat and like just talking with the congregation and having a real discussion as this guy who's as corrupt and as failed as the people he's trying to help. So they're the bits I've really enjoyed doing. I can't ever be specific, and it's happened so quickly, but it's all been really fun. It's been like unlike anything I've ever done.
Well, I'm really excited for it. I know we talked a lot about the characters, but is there any link to who might be playing like Allfather or Hairstar or any of those characters later on? 'Cause I feel like Louis Anderson would be a really good Allfather.
That's a great idea.
Because he's just kind of
idea.
funny and he's just kind of jolly, and I think it would be pretty funny. I don't know if they're gonna.
I don't know
where they're gonna go with that.
You know, I don't know. I was just begging for next episodes while we were filming. Unlike anything I've ever done, I was like, please, I need to know. I'm desperate to know what we're doing next. And they were little nuggets, like the comics were. Of just you were so excited to find out what on earth was going to happen next with these people.
Literally on Earth.
I have no idea. I have no idea which characters they're thinking of bringing in soon.
Well, King Cannon's kind of great, and they brought him in a little earlier than the books where he is, because he comes later in the books.
Have you seen him up to 4? Is he? When do you see it? Yeah.
Yeah, you start seeing him through 4, and he's so creepy. Like they did such a great job casting with his big thick Coke bottle glasses, just like I'll believe in God, whatever. It's so creepy.
Yeah. But that person in the book is
so good,
weird,
so weird.
Yeah, and I think I've managed to convert him, but I'm just. Not.
Did you have any other Preacher questions? Because I wanted to move on to something else.
No, I was just gonna say I'm just really excited for it, for a show that everyone has been saying it's been in literally like development hell for like 20 years. You know, Kevin Smith, I remember, pitched it and was just like, hey, can we do this? And HBO was like, what the hell is this? Yeah, so
HBO dropped the ball with that and Walking Dead.
Yeah,
Walking Dead was initially all laid out and ready to hand to HBO. And they were like, nah, we can't do anything with this. So, luckily AMC picked it up.
Yeah.
And the amount of violence and everything's in there. And you're like, compared to what Game of Thrones is doing, it's like, how would HBO turn this down? This seemed like it would have been...
I think it's actually bloodier than Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
In like a comically bloodier kind of way.
Right, but it would seem like a no-brainer. And same thing with Preacher, especially with all the risks these networks are taking now to get away from what broadcast television is doing. They're willing to take anything, and they passed on this too.
Yeah.
All credit to AMC for daring to do that stuff. Someone's putting their neck on the line when they give it the green light, and they go, yeah, let's take a risk with this. This is what I want to see. I may lose my job.
and it's a really risky property too, because it's like you have such the source material behind it, where it's got such a hardcore like fandom, where it's almost like a Bible, and then you have like you have to deal with the new people who are coming into a crazy ass story. So it's got all this stuff, but you know what? It's all working for it, and the episodes are great.
No, it's great to hear.
I watched an episode with a friend who's never read the comics, and she loved it. She's like, "That was the best pilot I've ever seen." So
and that was because we were wondering about that, and I said, "Yeah, let her see it." That was a great test to see because we were fans of it.
Yeah,
she knows nothing about it, and that shows that the mainstream public is going to be on board with this.
It's really important. It's great.
She loved Tulips.
Great.
She was like, "Tulips the best."
Yeah,
I was like, "Yeah, Tulips great. She builds a rocket launcher."
We only have a couple minutes left with you, but I want to give the plug out right now. Preacher, the series premiere is this Sunday, 10 p.m. on AMC, after Fear the Walking Dead and before Talking Dead for with Chris Hardwick there. Great spot to be in on Sunday nights. Sunday has become must-see TV.
For AMC,
NBC let it go 10 years ago, and now Sunday's the night for every network.
Yeah, like let's just change that B to an M.
Yeah. But you were in a couple of movies that I guess weren't overly big, but had huge cult followings, and that I think Brian might have been fans too. You were in Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
Yeah.
And you were in Dracula Untold.
Yeah.
With the gold armor.
With the guy had a lot of good armor.
What was it, Mehmed or
Mehmed?
Mehmed,
Yeah,
right.
Mehmed.
I love that movie. I thought it was a great interesting origin tale for Vladimir. And a different take. Yeah, instead of him just being a creepy surgeon.
He was a nasty guy. He was nasty.
Yeah.
No doubt that his background.
But they gave him a little saving grace because when he gave himself up to the darkness to become Dracula, it was because he was trying to avenge his family.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it
so
was a
there was
clever
a
take
hint.
on it.
There was a hint of goodness through all his badness on it. Dracula Untold was a great movie. If you haven't seen it, it's on demand and everything. You should definitely check that out. But the big thing now for the summer is you're in Warcraft.
Yeah.
Now, I want to see this movie, but I have said publicly for years I was definitely afraid of playing the game.
Did you ever play it?
No, I
You were
was
scared
very
for your own life.
yes
Yeah.
because
He's gonna
I
fall down that wormhole.
exactly because I do morning radio and it's hard enough to get up and be here at that time to do 5 days a week. If I got hooked onto that game,
You're finished.
I would be like, oh my God, I should have been at work 2 hours ago, or I gotta go. I only have an hour to sleep before work, or it's been days. I don't have a job anymore.
I've spoken to a lot of people that happened to. It's quite incredible.
Did you play the game?
I did in the end, but I know I did. Like you, I'd heard the kind of horror stories of
Yeah.
people becoming obsessed and addicted to it, and which makes me immediately want to do it. But,
Like all good
and
things.
I hope that they are happy with our interpretation of that film. I hope that it lives up to expectation. It's again like Dracula. It's a clever take on a tale. There's no good and evil in it, and it raises questions about who deserves the right to land, and it questions war, and it looks incredible.
I will say because I like the game, never played the game, seen a lot of the game, so I can't really say I'm a fan of the game. But having seen the trailer in front of so many, like Captain America: Civil War was in front of that, and all these blockbusters, seen it over and over, and I'm like, I really want to see that movie. And then I heard parents in the theater too. They were like, they don't play the game, they don't know anything about it, but they're like, I want to see that.
Cool.
So
That's
that
good.
movie. The game has its built-in fan base, but that is another movie that'll bring a lot of other people in there who know nothing about the game, that love fantasy genre, Lord of the Rings, things like that, Game of Thrones. You're gonna love that movie as well.
Yeah,
So
I was actually surprised by how much I enjoyed that trailer because usually video game movie, I'm like, you never know, but it was
It's
really
incredible.
good.
The CGI, the orcs in that looking, it all
So
looks-
check out Warcraft, obviously, this summer. A big deal. But Preacher, Sunday, 10 p.m. on AMC, after Fear the Walking Dead. Dominic Cooper
Thank
on
you very
Twitter.
much.
Send him some love. Thank you so much for being here, man. And then we'd
you
love to
very
see you
much.
either for the finale or if you're in town or for season 2 or whatever your next
Yeah,
project
right.
is, man. Thank you.
Chat again. Thanks very much.
Thanks, man.